phenomenal. He's a great speaker. He goes fast, so really tune in, focus in. So, yay.
The bird is out there.
Who is the Taha? He thinks he's a bird.
Everyone looks up in the grocery stores when I do it.
I can only imagine.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for having me tonight. You guys can hear me, right? The sound is good enough? Okay. So my name is Ferhat Ozturk, and I'm an associate professor of biology at the Salros State University in Eagle Pass, Texas. So I used to work at UTSA. I'm still affiliated with UTSA as I'm the director of Honey Pathway there, but my official position is at Salros State University. And recently I have started as a chief scientific officer at the MDN Wound Ventures. So we are working on developing a honey medical device by using the local honeys for wound healing as a patch or as a gel or different dressings. So I'd like to mention before I continue, I'm not a medical doctor, I'm a science doctor. So therefore every information in here should not be considered as medical advice. I will provide scientific evidence-based information here, and you are welcome to apply this with your own benefit and your own risks. So please make sure that you consult with your health professional before deciding, applying, these for your own health. So these slides are available. A little bit modified version is available on our website at UTSA Honey Pathway. You can just Google that name or the QR code that I showed. So you are welcome to take pictures during my presentation. You are welcome to ask questions during my presentations. If I go too fast, you can tell me another dog is chasing you, just slow down. So I can slow down, but other than that, if you have questions, just let me know, and then I will be happy to answer in between. So my program, the Honey Pathway, is supported by USDA's Next Gen program, which was a $2.89 million grant that was provided for 5 years to educate the students about medicinal honey, urban beekeeping, and honeybee biology. So that's part of this program as well. So today I will talk about 6 things. Number 1 is honey is medicine, or honey as medicine. And then I'll talk about the bioactivity of honey. What makes honey a unique medicinal product? Because our motto is not honey is medicine, but not every honey is created equal. So not everyone has the same medicinal value. And then I will give you some practical applications you can apply at home, like for your sore throat, or for acne, for diabetes, and so forth. And then I will also go into some clinical applications, how honey is used in the medical world, and do we have honey in the wound clinics or burn clinics or in the hospitals ready to be used? We'll find, I'll give you some examples. And then I'll also talk about honey for cancer and honey for wound healing in those parts. And what about honey in the medical market, as I mentioned? And finally, do we have local bioactive honeys? Like, do we have local honeys which can be classified as medical grade honey and can be ready to go into the medical market? So, and then also in the last slide, I'll tell you about which honey has more medicinal potential, or which honey should be used or selected for medical applications. So honey is the sweetest stuff that has been provided to us for thousands of years, even hundreds of thousands of years. And as you know, honeybees are out there for 103 million years. So honeybees are the most important organisms on Earth for a sustainable human life. So without honeybees, our life will be miserable. The coffee you are drinking, or tea you are drinking, or the dress you are wearing out of cotton, or about 3/4 of the food that you eat will not be available. Actually, you can see on my computer it says, if you ate today, thank you, honeybee. Please always make sure that thank you, honeybee, because those are the reasons that they make our food ready. So honey is just a sugary food or not? So most of the people think honey is just a sugary component, but what is inside the honey, we'll go into details. Honey can be in different formats, either like it can be as we consume like a strength honey or comb honey, but other than that, honey can come from different nectar sources. So depending on nectar source, honey can be monofloral or polyfloral. Do you know the difference between these two? What makes a monofloral honey?
Like just be
All
over
the flowers
what
is
they.
the flower.
So does it need to be 90%, 100% the same pollen or less? Do you know any percentage to be considered?
It's 60.
60 going once?
35.
35, yes,
okay.
you got it. Yeah, 35%, yes.
Really?
35% is the cutoff. If you have one type of pollen, let's say if you say buckwheat honey, so 35% of the pollens should be buckwheat. And then the others can be mixed up. Because it is almost impossible to have anything more than 60-70%, because bees like diversity. They would like to go different pollens, they would like to go different nectar sources to collect it, because it's also important for their health. Like, can you eat meat every single day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? There might be some rare people doing that, but it's not doable for the bees. Anyway, so the bees make the honey in two different ways. One from the blossoms. This is what we see all the time when we see the honey and pollination and the honeybees. This is the most common picture. So honeybees collect the nectar from the plants which are flowering. But other than that, we have honeydew honey. So honeydew honey is a little bit separate, and we were just discussing about this. Nowadays is the time when we don't have so many blossoms. Then the bees goes and collect the secretions from the plants, like these leaves of the oak tree, or they can collect the excretions of the insects, like the scale insects, such as this aphid or spotted lanternfly. So you can see here spotted lanternfly. They are excreting their honeydew, and honeybees are collecting these excretions to make honey out of these. So how many of you think honey is bees' vomit? Is it bees' vomit?
No.
Yes? No? Raise your hand if it is bees' vomit. I know? Okay, yeah. Now it is a little bit more disgusting. Now it's an insect's feces. So. But it is so sweet, right? No matter what it is. Yeah. So honeybees, it is highly processed, chemically processed to become honey. So even though the source may not appear to be very appealing, but at the end, honey is a sterile product, and it can be, honey doesn't spoil for thousands of years if it is properly stored. So it doesn't have a shelf life. So this honeydew honey can be from fir, pine, spruce, salix, castanea, not the chestnut, but it's a different tree, oak, tilia, or other trees as well. So honeydew can be either from the trees' secretions, or it can be insect excretions. So again, honey is mostly sugar, so 76% of honey is sugar, and these sugars are mostly monosaccharides. So monosaccharides means single sugars, and this is one of the things that we learned in biology class, that honeybees, they collect the sucrose sugar, the nectar, from the flower blossoms and the other nectar sources, and they chemically convert them into glucose and fructose. So in this case, about 76%, or more than 60% of them is fructose and glucose. Then we have this maltose, another disaccharide, and we have sucrose, which is a table sugar, and which is the main nectar source. And we also have some other trisaccharides, like 3-carbon sugars or triple sugars. So again, most of it is sugar, but what we focus on is this 0.5% in here. This very little, less than 1% of the honey is minerals, enzymes, vitamins, and also some other phenolic acids and phytochemicals. So this is the one, this small percentage is the one that makes honey a unique medicine. Because when you buy, when people make fake honey, or when they sell fake honey, they just simply mix up the sugars, but it doesn't have medicinal properties. Only these chemicals, which are more than 3,500 compounds inside the honey. Can you believe this? Just one drop of honey, and you can identify, like, I'll just give an example here, the cupcake. So how many ingredients in the cupcake? Maybe 10, like sugar and so forth. But in like one drop of honey, we have 3,600 different chemicals inside. And most of these are phytochemicals or phytochemicals, which are collected from the plants. And most of them are still unnamed. We know the chemical structure, but we don't know the name of those chemicals or where do we find them exactly. About 600 of them are connected to the chemicals, but about 3,000 of them are still needs to be identified. So honey is a very rich component. That's why honey is almost impossible to replicate. So other than that, what do we have inside the honey? So we mentioned about the sugars already, but we only mentioned 3, 4 of them. But there are 13 different types of sugars inside honey, at least. Like, other than fructose, glucose, and sucrose, we have therulose, turanose, arylose, and ligurose, and maltose. These other sugars are inside the honey. And then we also have some live enzymes inside the honey. So these enzymes make honey a living food. So what does this mean? So honey has some chemicals inside in it that makes it still active. That's why honey's color may change throughout the years. Like even if you store your honey in a closed, dark space and also in a cool area, you may still see your honey's color is changing year by year because some chemical reactions are still continuing inside the honey after the extraction. So, but other than that, we have some live enzymes inside the honey. And what are the enzymes made of? Like what is the structure? Do you recall from Biology 101?
Protein.
They're proteins, great. So these are proteins, and these proteins are vulnerable to heat. And for this reason, we should not be adding our honey to hot drinks. So what does hot drinks do to the honey?
It kills it.
It kills or it denatures the enzymes. Because you can get the example of when you crack your egg and then put into the hot pan, what happens? The egg's white or the yolk will become solidified, right? It gets denatured. Same thing happens into the enzymes inside the honey. When you put your honey into a very hot coffee, very hot tea, very hot milk, very hot water, then it will start denaturing the enzymes. So, but I love adding my honey into my coffee or tea. Should I give it up? No, you're not going to give it up, right? So what is the solution then? Can we come up with a solution?
Is there a threshold of temperature?
Great, what is the threshold?
I think it's 120.
Okay, 120 Fahrenheit, but will you carry a thermometer with you all the time?
No. You wouldn't be able to touch it or drink it without it.
Your pinky finger, if it doesn't burn your pinky finger, it doesn't burn honey. Or easier, if it doesn't burn your mouth, it doesn't burn the honey. So when it reaches the drinkable temperature, then you add the honey into it. Then you can safely enjoy your honey without losing its medicinal benefits.
Isn't it the Chinese, they don't have handles on their cup, so if you can touch the cup to drink it.
Oh, there you go.
Then it's,
That is a drinkable temperature.
Drinkable
Great.
temperature,
Yeah. So we already have thermometer in our mouth, and if it doesn't burn your mouth, it doesn't burn the honey's enzyme. And other than that, we have these minerals, aluminum, magnesium, iron, phosphorus, and so forth. So these minerals are coming from the plants that honeybees are collecting nectar, and these can tell us the botanical origin of the honey. Which soil is the honey is coming from. Because when the plants flower or blossoms, they collect from their roots these minerals, and then they provide them in their nectar. So by identifying these minerals through NMR, we can find out where the honey is coming from. And then we also have some other amino acids and enzymes in those, but let's talk about different enzymes. So invertase, this is the enzyme that tells us honey has been converted by the bee. So invertase is the enzyme that converts this sucrose into glucose and fructose. The diastase enzyme, this is telling us this honey is being made by the bees, not by human. Because diastase is the enzyme that is coming from the honeybee, which is secreted from their mouth, and then it is telling us that it is cured by the bees. Glucose oxidase, this is the key enzyme for the honey's antimicrobial activity. So this enzyme, glucose oxidase, I will show you in the upcoming slides, it will make hydrogen peroxide from the glucose and water. So when you add water into the honey, hydrogen peroxide will be produced with the help of this glucose oxidase enzyme. And by measuring the glucose oxidase activity, you can find out antimicrobial potential of your honey. So that's why there's a new methodology is coming up. It's published online actually. That glucose oxidase activity can tell us. But other than that, as combination of these enzymes, vitamins and minerals, they are helpful for bioactivity of the honey, like for medicinal value. But more than that, we have these flavonoids, phenolic acid, and tannins. So these are the secondary metabolites. So these are the phytochemicals that are coming from the nectar sources. So when the plants are, producing, when they are in harsh conditions, they will produce more of these. So that's the question. So which of these honeys can be the spring source? Like the spring honey, which can be the fall honey?
The darkest fall, lightest spring.
The darkest fall honey, and then this is the spring honey most likely, even if it is from the same hive. Because why does the fall honey has darker color? What makes it dark?
It's the honeydew. It's probably the honeydew.
It's the honeydew, but else?
A higher mineral content.
Yeah.
high mineral content, okay. But remember, secondary metabolites, phenolic acid and tannins.
Sitting longer.
Yeah, they are like, because they are like exposed to dirt, and then because of this dirt exposure, the plants will produce more of these secondary metabolites, and then they put them into their nectar as well. So when the bees are collecting them, they are collecting these secondary metabolites which are giving the color of the honey. Okay, so honey is a medicinal product. So honey has been used as a medicine by every civilization on earth for thousands of years. I will repeat this. Honey has been used as a medicine by every civilization on earth. Regardless of Greeks and Romans, Indians and Chinese, Turks, Persians, Arabs, Africans, Aztecs and Mayas, you can find honey as used primarily as a medicine, more than as a food. That's why honey is identified as a nutraceutical agent. So it is nutritious and pharmaceutical agent. So honey is a nutraceutical agent, and it has been used by every civilization. So, and why is honey is medicine? I mean, what makes honey a unique product? These are the chemicals inside the honey. Those phytochemicals make honey a medicinal product. And what kind of medicinal activities do we have? Number one, honey is rich in antioxidants. So which means that honey can scavenge the free radicals, which will cause inflammation and most of the disease in our body, starting from brain disorders to cardiovascular diseases, from cancer to diabetes, they are all related with oxidative stress. So when the people consume honey regularly, they prevent themselves from these diseases that cause because of the free radicals. And also there was a study in Malaysia, they found out the beekeepers, I mean normally there is a common conception that says beekeepers live longer. Why do beekeepers live longer?
They eat their honey.
Because, okay, they eat honey. What does honey do to them?
Anti-inflammatory.
There you go. Honey keeps them healthy. So I will show you in the upcoming slide, but most of the diseases in our body are related with oxidative stress. So what we eat, what we are exposed to from air, or what we are, our stress, these are all causing oxidative stress in our body. And this stress will cause inflammation, and this inflammation will cause ailments in our stomach, in our brain, in our lungs, in our liver. So these are all related. So by consuming honey regularly, the antioxidants, which are more than most of the other fruits, like pomegranate or grape or blueberries, honey has more antioxidants in them, like natural honey, local honeys, has more of these, or darker honeys. So by consuming honey regularly, beekeepers live at least 10% longer than the non-beekeepers at the same age group or same health conditions. So long live the beekeepers. Okay. So honey is anti-inflammatory, as I mentioned very recently. Honey has lots of antimicrobial properties. So these are the ones that are coming from phytochemicals again, such as the flavonoids. So these antimicrobials will kill the bacteria, and then they will not allow the bacteria to grow inside the honey. So what does it do is, especially in wound healing, which are non-healing wounds are stuck at the infection phase, or respiratory infections, they are all related with or cured or help with the honey's antimicrobial properties. So honey can kill the bacteria with multi-weapon. And I will show another slide about this too. And the most important, the honey is immunomodulatory. So honey can help our immune system to get ready for different diseases. Remember, all the disease that we are exposed to, it is fixed by our own cells, by our immune cells, white blood cells. So when honey is an immunomodulatory agent or immunobooster, so it will help our cells to fix our own body with our own resources. And finally, honey is low glycemic index. Most of the honeys have low glycemic index, which means that honey can be safely consumed, but not every honey. Some of the honeys can be safely consumed by diabetic patients because it doesn't spike the blood glucose level very quickly. And again, I will have some slides about it very soon. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit nervous after the big meal. By the way, we're at the Medicinal, so I got a great treat, thank you. Okay.
How much is too much,
For honey?
Yeah, daily.
That's a great question. What is the daily dose of the honey? So depending on your age and your health conditions, most of the time, like at least 1 tablespoon of honey is needed for regular use. But most of the people, some of the medical doctors, they recommend to use at least 2 tablespoons per day. 1 before going to bed and 1 in the morning. So, and even if you have, some diabetic conditions, depending on which honey you are using, you can have you can still consume honey to keep your glucose at the bay.
Can I say, add one thing to that?
Yes, please.
If you eliminate fat from sweet, you minimize diabetes. So if you can do your honey without fat, like first thing in the morning, like he's saying, like I do lemon water. So, and then in the evening, 3 hours after you've had any kind of fat, that will actually keep you from
Becoming diabetic. Yeah.
diabetic.
Actually, today I have experienced by myself directly. My boss, the president at the MDM Wound Ventures. So I brought some comb honey to him this morning
Nice.
during our meeting time. Just so you know, in Turkish we say eat sweet, talk sweet. So we start our meetings by eating honey so that the meetings will go sweetly. So
That's a good technique.
yeah, eat sweet, talk sweet. That's why we have baklava, but honey is better. So he said, I'm pre-diabetic, I'm not gonna get too much. And then eventually as the meeting goes on, he get another spoon, another spoon, another spoon. So he got at least 5 spoons of honey and he was still, nothing happened to me. So my sugar is still normal. So yes, as long as you know your honey is from a reliable source and it is honey and it is especially comb honey, which means never opened by somebody else, then that honey is much more reliable and probably will not spike your blood glucose level. So, how does honey's bioactivity work? Number one, I mentioned oxidative stress. So, oxidative stress is, according to the paper which was published in 2008, but still there are more things including to this. But oxidative stress is the main cause of disease in our brain, in our kidneys, in our heart, cardiovascular system, in our joints, immune system, skin, multiple organs, even fetus is during the pregnancy, eyes and lungs. Look, almost every organ is affected from oxidative stress. Do you have any medical doctors here? I know we have some science doctors, some PhDs here, but okay. If I'm wrong, please feel free to correct. But oxidative stress is the main cause of majority of the diseases because it will cause inflammation on different organs. And inflammation, what is inflammation, by the way? How would you define inflammation in one word? Like, what does it resemble in our life? Pain.
Swelling.
Swelling is a symptom.
Redness. Imbalance.
Imbalance, great. I like that word, homeostasis, but another word. It's
Illness,
fire.
fire.
It's fire.
That's right, it is fire.
Inflammation is fire. So what happens when you see a fire? Like, what do you do?
Put water on it.
Put water, extinguish it, or turn on the fire alarm, right? So make sure that the fire truck and then the police and ambulance, they all come and they take care of the fire. This is what happens in our body. When we get inflammation, the fire alarm is kicked in and our white blood cells will come and fix the problem. So this is inflammation. That's why we have swelling. That's why we have redness. That's why we have heat there. So we need to extinguish this fire. So, but if you don't extinguish it, or if the fire alarm is broken, it keeps on and on, what would you do then? How does your body will react to it?
Shock.
It will start ignoring it. Because if you have broken alarm in here, the alarm is on, okay, don't worry about this, it's broken. So the fire alarm, the fire truck will not come, ambulance will not come, police will not come, because it is false, it's not functional. This is what happens when we have chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation means you have a fire alarm turned on and it keeps going on and on. And your white blood cells will tell, enough is enough, there's nothing going on here, we cannot fix it, just leave it as is. And this chronic inflammation will end up with rheumatoid arthritis, with Alzheimer's, with Parkinson's, with cardiovascular atherosclerosis, because these are all results of unresolved inflammation. So what does honey do is, honey helps with the, it like resets the clock. It resets our body to bring it back to the balance. Because, okay, what is the difference between disease state and healthy state? So I'm making like a question and answer session, but sorry? I heard it. Homeostasis, there you go. Homeostasis is the balance in our body. When we lose the homeostasis, we become sick. For example, if your blood glucose level is out of balance, become diabetic. If our serotonin is out of balance or dopamine is out of balance, we got psychological disorders. or anything else where our sodium is out of balance, then we have other hypertension and so forth. So anything out of balance is a disease state and it is out of homeostasis. So what honey does is, honey helps our body to bring back to the homeostasis, to bring back to the balance. That's why regular consumption of honey will help our body to take care of different inflammations, to different alarms inside the body to keep them calm. So this is why we should use honey regularly. And on the disease state, again, the amount can be changed. So that's why this oxidation is very important, and this is basically happening because of our diet or because of the air that we expose and so forth. So the free radicals, they are stealing molecules from stable molecules, and antioxidants will provide them. And normally we get antioxidants in our diet, like from pomegranates, from blueberries and so forth, but honey is rich in antioxidants. And which honeys have more antioxidants? What type of honey has more antioxidants in them?
Wildflower.
Wildflower, or maybe we can define it a bit differently, which honeys has more antioxidant potential? Raw or dark honeys?
Dark honey.
So remember, the darker the color honey, the higher amount of phytochemicals, the higher amount of phenolics and tannins. So these are the antioxidant chemicals inside the honey. So natural dark honey has more antioxidants in them. So for regular consumption, I would highly recommend using natural dark color honey and raw honey, and preferably local comb honey. Because the reason that comb, again I hate a slide, but why the comb honey is better than straight honey? Okay, I'm telling why. So you are selling. Troy is mostly selling comb honeys, but it's a great, peak for it. But why the comb honey is better than the straight honey?
Been exposed to the oxygen, to the atmosphere.
There you go.
It's just like the bees.
The bees make the honey and seal it. So when it is sealed, nobody opens it, and then it is protected for hundreds or even thousands of years. Because bees work very sterile. And then when they have very sterile honey and they seal it with the wax, that's it. So the honey is good for hundreds or thousands of years. But when you open it and you strain it, what happens?
It starts to be infected with.
It starts to get exposed to air, oxidation. Because when you leave it, if you leave the iron outside without any coverage, the iron gets oxidized and get rusty. So everything in our life, it is exposed. For example, coffee. When you drink the coffee, it starts getting oxidized. That's why fresh coffee is different from long-waited coffees, right? So fresh coffee smells better or makes better. Same thing for honey. Fresh honey out of the hive. How many of you enjoy the honey direct out of the hive?
Yeah.
It's beautiful, right? It's
Every time I do a removal, I gotta taste the honey.
So how is it different from collected honey? Like the honey gets waited for a long while.
The temperature, maybe.
I always feel the warmth. It kind of goes through your throat easily. It is very soft. Yeah.
It's the same as vegetables. It's almost like you eat the sun. It's like you're.
There you go. Great. So honey is like that. As soon as you open up the wax, as soon as you remove the wax, now you still have the fresh honey. So freshness of the honey can be stored as long as it is kept in the comb. So local, dark comb honey. So this is the best honey that you can consume for a good health, and also this can be used for medical purposes.
And then also it's not adulterated.
Yeah, if it's in the comb, it's very hard to replicate the comb. The only risk with the comb honey is probably not so many people may do it here. Sugar syrup. So people keep feeding the bees with sugar a lot, especially commercial beekeepers. So they keep adding more and more sugar into their diet, so bees don't go and collect nectars. So they still make the honey, but it is more rich in sugars than the phytochemicals. So that's why I keep telling dark, because you cannot replicate dark comb honey with the sugar addition. Okay, honey is antibacterial agent. Number one, honey is rich in sugars. So this sugar-rich honey or sugar-rich components does not allow any bacteria to grow. So what happens that, do you know how does people keep the fish eatable in winter?
Salt.
You add salt. What does the salt do to the fish?
It takes the bacteria.
It kills the bacteria because
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes the moisture out.
it takes the moisture out. That's the key thing. So honey is the same thing. With this much of sugar content, it takes the moisture out of the bacteria, and that's why if you put something inside the honey, completely buried, that thing will not decompose. So if you put meat inside the honey pot, that meat will remain eatable for years and years. So it's a definitely interesting story, but in the past times, like the Middle Ages or Near Ages, so when the people when the king is asking for the head of a rebel, so they go from one city to another, like miles, thousands of miles. And how they keep the head of the rebel fresh, they put into the honey buckets and then keep it so they get from Cairo, bring it to the Istanbul and take it off still fresh.
Oh, God. That was their
It's
day.
I don't know,
It's like their formaldehyde.
yeah, it's kind of. But honey can keep the tissues away from the decomposition. And one of my students has done a research about adding honey into the minced meat. It extends the shelf life longer than compared to the STT, the other chemical that is used for that purpose. So acidity is another thing. Most of the honeys are acidic, and most of the bacteria do not like to live in the acidic conditions because our pH in our body is like 7-ish, like 7.24. And most of the bacteria will thrive in our regular pH or neutral pH. So if you keep them acidic area, the bacteria cannot survive. That's why our stomach is very acidic. It is the first place that kills most of the bacteria that when we eat food. So other one is organic antibacterial compounds. So these are the ones, the phytochemicals. And this is the one that makes honey unique from each other. These chemicals are make honey more medicinal or less medicinal. And these are the phytochemicals that are also antibacterial. And the next one is hydrogen peroxide. So hydrogen peroxide is basically, remember there is glucose inside the honey with fructose and sucrose and so forth. The glucose oxidase enzyme, when the honey water is added, so this will get activated. So when you add water into the honey, make a sherbet, so then this glucose oxidase will get activated and it will produce gluconic acid, which will decrease the pH, and as well as hydrogen peroxide. So how do we use hydrogen peroxide in our medical life? What do we use it for?
Clean ones.
Cleaning, purifying, for the wounds, right? We clean up the wounds. But what happens if you leave the hydrogen peroxide 10 minutes there?
It kills the cells.
It kills your own cells. It will irritate you. It's gonna start making more and itchiness. So that's why you need to flush it as soon as possible. You put it there, keep it for about a minute, and then flush it. So, but how does the honey's peroxide will help them? It is a continuous production.
Because it doesn't kill the cells. It kills the bacteria without killing the cells.
Great. Okay, she studied her.
I've heard this talk a couple of times.
Yes. So the hydrogen peroxide produced from the honey is 0.3%, equivalent to 0.3%. But the hydrogen peroxide that we use in wound cleaning is 3%. So it is 10 times more stronger. So this time, this 0.3% is strong enough to kill the bacteria, but not strong enough to disturb our own cells. Because human cells are at least 10 times larger than the bacteria. So that's why this continuous production of honey or hydrogen peroxide is very helpful for honey's antibacterial property. Another thing is, honey is out there for thousands of years, as we agreed. It has been used as a medicine for every civilization on earth. So antibiotics, which were discovered about 150 years ago, about 100 years ago by Alexander Fleming, and then when they accidentally discovered the penicillin as the antibiotic. So do you remember when was the first resistance recorded for the first antibiotic for penicillin? Do you have an idea after how many years later the resistance for penicillin was discovered?
I think in the 50s.
In the 50s, which is about 20 years later after discovery, right? So even Alexander Fleming, during his Nobel Prize talk, he said, yes, we found the penicillin, but we will find some resistant bacteria which will, gain resistance to this. Now we have more than 26 different classes of antibiotics available in the medical market. And do you know how many of them has resistant bacteria?
Every one of them.
Every one of them.
Yeah.
So there is bacteria resistant to every single type, every single class of antibiotics. Okay, come on with the honey now. Honey is out there for thousands of years, used for infections against various different types of bacteria. In one experiment, in one study, they tried 200 different pathogens against Manuka honey, and they did not register any resistance. How come bacteria cannot resist honey?
Because it's sweet.
Sorry,
It's diverse.
Now, it was a joke.
what is the joke?
Because it's sweet.
Yeah, honey is very sweet. Nobody can resist the honey, right? That's the thing. Bacteria can resist honey too. But there's a truth in this joke. Because bad bacteria does is, they consume honey as an energy source because there's lots of glucose and fructose in it, which is the source of energy. So they eat the honey. And then, once they eat the honey, they also eat their own poison. These phytochemicals inside the honey will start killing the bacteria inside out, like a Trojan horse. So it goes in it, and then when they consume the sugars, they're also getting the chemicals in it, and those chemicals will get activated, or phytochemicals will kill the bacteria inside out. And then by this way, there is no resistance gain because there are so many different ways of killing the bacteria by those phytochemicals, either attacking the DNA of the bacteria, or the cell wall of the bacteria, or the protein assembly, ribosome, and all those things. So the contents inside the honey can do them. Okay, then here's the question. I mean, do we have bacteria in our body that we need?
Yes.
What are they called? Lactobacillus or bifidobacteria. These are our gut microbiome. So we live with our microbiome, right? We cannot survive without them. If we don't have microbiome, we are like infants. We cannot eat any food. And we are very vulnerable for diseases. So those bacteria help us to digest the food, also help us protection. So how on earth honey kills the bad bacteria but not the good bacteria? This is the $1 million question, and I still don't know the answer.
It doesn't
But-
eat the honey.
Hmm?
Doesn't eat the honey.
No, they eat the honey.
I don't know.
They
We
eat the
don't
honey.
know, right?
They're
But
resistant.
I have some hypotheses. Number one is those bacteria are living with us for like thousands of years, and so they know honey is good and honey doesn't harm them. But also the other thing is they can balance. In terms of good and bad bacteria, we always have a balance in our microbiome. As long as our good bacteria are better or more than the bad bacteria, the pathogenic bacteria, we are okay. Like C. diff, for example. C. diff is a diarrhea-causing bacteria. But C. diff is always with us. Everybody has C. diff in our guts. But if the amount of C. diff is high, then we got sick. But if it is low, then we are okay with it. So we can control. As long as the good bacteria controls the bad bacteria, then we are good to go with this. So it's my hypothesis that the honey is feeding the good bacteria to overcome the bad bacteria, in addition to these Trojan horse hypotheses as well. So again, there's a lot to talk about. This is a full presentation. What about some practical applications of honey? So how would you use honey in your life? How do you use honey in your life for health purposes? What is the primary use? I know that I only gave a lot of clues since the beginning, but what do you use it for most? Raise your hand and talk.
Raise your hand and talk.
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Sore throat.
Sore throat. Yeah, you can tell sore throat. Yeah, what else?
In my coffee.
Oh, not for health. Coffee is good for health, but yes. Yes.
No, I always use it for sauces and stuff.
Okay,
Yes,
I'm
for
asking
health.
about health reasons.
Immune support.
Immune support, great.
Big time immune support.
Sorry?
Big time immune support.
Big tell, okay.
Wounds.
Yes, wounds too. So most of the time when I ask these questions to my students at the university, about 90% of them, they says,
Allergies.
sore throat.
A sore throat,
Because
okay.
probably either their parents or grandparents, they shoveled the honey into them, when they got sick, and then they got the honey. That is true. Majority of the people use honey for sore throat. But this is underutilizing the power of honey. Because honey has much more power than sore throat. But let's start with the sore throat. Oh, sorry. If for sore throat, how do you use the honey? Then that's the question. Like for sore throat, how do you use honey? Just eat it, swallow it. Yes.
Lemon, ginger, and cinnamon.
Great. Lemon, ginger, and cinnamon. So you need to add water.
Yeah, same.
Okay.
So teas, people use teas.
Okay, good. But most of the people just eat honey, right?
Yeah.
So what is the difference between eating honey and is there a better way than eating honey other than like if you don't have those ginger, lemon, and so forth? Okay, when you eat the honey, you are exposing the honey into your sore throat just for 5 to 10 seconds because you just swallow it and it goes. But another way is gargling. So if you dilute the honey in water, never hot water, either warm or cold water, when you dilute honey in room temperature water, let's say, you're gonna start the hydrogen peroxide production because remember, glucose oxidase get activated. And number two, when you gargle it, you are exposing your throat at least 30 to 45 seconds, or even more, depending on how much you are gargling or how much honey drink you have. So by gargling, you can increase the exposure time and also activity of the honey. So next time when you have a sore throat or when you know somebody has a sore throat, tell them to gargle the honey, with the honey in drink. And what is the percentage or the ratio? Mostly 1 to 3 to 1 to 5. So 1 tablespoon of honey, 5 tablespoons of water, and so forth. Okay, the other one is acne. And yeah, it's a little bit surprising because honey is #1 healer or treater for the acne. Because honey is antimicrobial and honey is anti-inflammatory. And acne's main cause is what? Bacteria. Cutibacterium acnes. So this bacteria, don't look at the urine. So this bacteria, we grow them, and after we grow them, we look for the bacteria to honey to kill how much all the bacteria they can kill. This bacteria is very hard to grow, by the way. It's an anaerobic bacteria. It takes 7 days to grow them.
Wait, which one is it? It's not sound?
Cutibacterium acnes.
Okay.
So it's called Actinobacterium. It used to call, now the name has changed a couple of years ago. It's Cutibacterium acnes. And then the other one is Staph epidermidis. So these two bacteria, they make a biofilm, and that's how they cause the acne on the face. So this is my student, Kiyomi. So she has, after listening to this talks that honey can be used for acne, so she volunteered to use one of the honeys that she got from TBA convention in 23. Yeah, and then she applied it for 6 to 7 weeks. And look at this treatment. At the beginning, she has acne all over her face at different stages, 6 to 7 weeks, purely clean face. And
applied it directly?
applied it directly. She had a little bit CeraVe creme to keep it a little bit longer there, but it is very easy to apply. Just wash your face with your warm water or maybe a little bit as maybe some soap to open up the pores, and then apply the honey there directly. Keep it there 45 to 1 hour, 45 minutes to 1 hour, and then wash it off. That's it. So, and you do it every day, and you will see the benefits very soon. Because it is not only antibacterial, but it's anti-inflammatory. It is also anti-aging.
Yeah, so it actually tightens your skin.
There you go, we can see that. So if you can apply honey mask to your face, you will also see that you are getting more beautiful. So.
What I do is, when you crush and strain, if you do any kind of honey stuff removal and you got it all over your hands, you're like, I don't want to just waste this honey.
Ooh, there you go. Actually,
And the bees come.
Then you go to the bees.
oh
Not your
yeah.
inside. Not your inside.
And then even for men, especially aftershave, so you can use honey as an aftershave thing, so to avoid the inflammation or redness, after the shaving the face.
I bet that would feel good.
Yeah. Another one is honey for gastrointestinal disease. Again, most of us don't use honey for our guts, but honey has been used for gut diseases for decades. For hundreds of years. So gut microbiome is affected with this, and when you dilute the honey in warm water, it can be used for constipation. When you use honey for cold water, it will help with the diarrhea. So one of them you cannot hold it, one of them you cannot let it go. So how does honey can help both? The temperature is the key here. So don't confuse the temperature, it's getting worse. So, okay, so just be, but other thing is honey is, remember Helicobacter pylori, this is the bacteria that causes ulcer in the stomach. And this is the only bacteria that can survive, or one of the few bacteria that can survive in our stomach, which is pH 2.0 or less. So, and honey, because of its antimicrobial properties, honey can kill Helicobacter pylori in the stomach when you consume it into the empty stomach in the morning. So if you have ulcer in your stomach, just go ahead and use honey, and it will help, fighting with the Helicobacter pylori. And there are also other use of honey for gastrointestinal infections or diseases too.
And how much?
That's a very good question. So for those, that's very good. Dosage is the thing that is needed. So for constipation and diarrhea, you may need to use it based on need, I would say. For example, constipation is not very easy to be relieved. So what you need to do is you need to use warm honey drink. Like you can prepare half a cup or 1 cup and 3 times a day, like morning, noon, and before going to bed. So it will help to relieve all the, it will help the intestines to release more water into the area. And then it will settle. Same thing for diarrhea. Because I personally have IBS, sorry, I have to go back. I have IBS, and most of the time it ends up with diarrhea. So what I do is I dilute the honey in 1 cup of water, room temperature water, then I add ice into it to make it colder, and then drink the whole cup. But not in one drink because it is sweet, so it takes a little bit of time, but you consume it, then you can do it again, depending on how much, how serious is the one. And for the Helicobacter pylori, it's every morning. So, and you will see I have seen several of my friends, my colleagues, that they use honey for their ulcer, and then they see the benefit starting as early as 1 week to 1 month. So it may change. So another golden question is honey for allergies. Local honey for local allergies. How many of you think local honey is good for local allergies? Raise your hand. Okay.
No.
So how does the local honey help local allergies?
Anti-inflammatory.
Anti-inflammatory. You know the answer. Good. But most of the people will tell, or do you have any other answers? Like how does the local honey will help the local allergies?
I've heard is that the allergens that you're exposed to are
Great.
the ones that are
Okay.
going to help.
This is the main answer. The local honey has local pollen in it, and these local pollens are the allergens that cause the allergies. And this is the common myth.
Yeah.
Because you breathe in the pollen, don't you? And
There you
so
go.
it doesn't help because you're just taking it internally because it's respiratory rather than.
Very good answer, yes. So there are two types of pollination. One is wing pollination, like we can see on these ragweeds and so forth. One is annual pollination. So the wind pollination, these pollens are very light, so they can, gone with the wind. So, on the other hand, so these are the ones that cause allergies in us. But honeybees or bats or butterflies, none of them are interested in these wind pollinated pollens. Number one, they are not rich in nutrition. Number two, they cannot catch them in the air. So what does the animal pollinated pollens, what the animals do is, they go and land and they collect the pollen with their legs, and then when they go to the next plant, they just transfer it to the other one. So they make the pollination, but at the same time, they collect the pollen for their own protein needs. Okay? So in this case, the pollen that bees are collecting are different from the pollens that are causing the allergies. Okay? So accidentally, when the bees are flying, these local allergens can touch to them, can be caught, but this is very small amount. And even there was an allergy doctor that she told me that in order to get desensitized or induce desensitization, you need to eat at least 2 pounds of honey, like to get for one small molecule, one allergy, because the amount of pollen is very, very, very limited. Like for example, when we do pollen analysis in our honey samples, we use about 5 grams of honey, and we get a very tiny amount of pollen at the very bottom after centrifugation. So it is very, very limited amount. It may not cause any, preparation. But how does the local honey can help local allergies then? Even if it is like that answer was more not the accurate answer, but how does the honey can help this? How does local honey? As you mentioned, anti-inflammatory properties.
It's immune support.
It's an immune support. So remember, local honey is, honey has anti-inflammatory and immune boosting properties, right? So local honeys are better than the grocery store honeys, at least 4 times more bioactive than the grocery store honeys. So in this case, when you consume local honey, you are getting exposed to those phytochemicals at least 4 times more than the grocery store honeys. And again, grocery store honeys, at least 1/3 of them, more than 30% of the grocery store honeys are adulterated, fraud, they are not honey. They can be corn syrup or so forth. In England, for example, they found out 48% of the grocery store honeys are not meeting the regulations or criteria to be considered as honeys. So as you see, these really make us, we should either find a local beekeeper and buy your honey from them, or better become a beekeeper. So especially in the US, in Texas, being a beekeeper is awarded. Like you can have egg exemption, right? Yes. Then you have a big area, and then you can get exempt from the tax.
Yes, there's actually, if people need information about getting tax-free on your bee supplies, you can apply for that. It's a different exemption than ag.
And if you lose your bees, government covers them. So that these are different government.
I don't know about that. That's
USDA
scary.
has. USDA
Okay.
has. Other than your insurance, USDA also supports you when you lose your bees. It is certain. You need to register them.
There you go.
Is that right?
I have no idea.
Well, she was just talking about losing her bee. Possibly
Yeah,
losing her
I'm
bee.
You have to be registered and you have to file all the paperwork.
There you go. Yes, you need to be registered
There you
and
go.
need to
You
file the
just got it.
paperwork, and you can get some, help from the government to, replace your bees lost. Yes.
I'm just curious related to allergies. Have you either experienced or done any research on the topical application in your sinus cavity? So be it the sinus wash?
I have not, but you mean like a liquid version, right? But then,
Nipah,
okay.
yeah, direct application.
I mean, I did not do any experiment like that, but it is worth to, to follow. That's a very good approach. Yes, most likely. Again, it's a very good project idea. And again, honey has been shown again to, initiate our immune response. Again, this is the immune response that is helping, the first response to the allergies or any kind of immune system. What about honey and diabetes? Okay. Honey is full of sugar, and diabetes has to stay away from sugar. How on earth a diabetic person can eat honey?
Because it doesn't spike your blood sugar like it,
There you go. And what is this called?
I didn't.
Glycemic index. So some of the honeys have low glycemic index. So glycemic index is basically how does your blood glucose level spikes as you consume glucose syrup versus the honeys. So our blood glucose level spikes up when we consume like hard sugars, like the glucose or candy or these kind of things. But when we consume honey, because again there might be different hypotheses for this, because glucose and fructose is introduced into our body simultaneously, they will kind of balance each other to be cleaned out faster from the our cardiovascular system. So not every honey is created equal. Not every honey has low glycemic index. So how can you identify your own honey if it is inducing high blood glucose level? Like, can you measure it yourself? How can you test? Very good. Test yourself with your blood. How do you test yourself? Are you keep pricking yourself every 30 minutes or active glucose monitoring devices? So especially if you're pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetes, so you can put on your arm and then it's connected to your cell phone, right? And you can keep measuring. So once you eat your own honey, on your backyard's honey or local beekeepers' honey, keep checking it every 15 minutes and see how much it is spiking your blood glucose. And by this way, and then on the other hand, it might be risky, but you may want to try eating a candy or chocolate. How does it affect it? So you can compare your local honey versus maybe another grocery store honey or sugar. So by this way, you can see if your local honey is suppressed or doesn't, spike your blood glucose level, then it is safe to consume. This is a self-test. But what about in the lab? So there's a study from Germany. They found out, for the German honeys, they found out there is a correlation between the fructose content of the honey and glycemic index that they found. So the higher the fructose content, the percentage, the lower the glycemic index. So what does fructose tells us? It is about the sweetness. So the higher the fructose amount, the sweeter the honey. So again, I cannot generalize this because there is not a direct relation between sweetness and fructose, but most of the time, high fructose honeys, they are sweeter to eat. So again, the high fructose, it can be less glycemic index, and then yes.
So that will be your lighter colored honeys?
I don't know how the fructose and color is, I don't think there is a correlation between fructose
Yeah,
and color.
it's probably just testing it to see where the levels are, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to get it tested to see which it's high in.
And unfortunately, it's not very
in
easy to test the sugars.
Yeah.
In my experience, the lighter honeys have a sweeter taste up front.
Yes.
And the darker honeys are a little.
Yeah, they have the honey color, yeah.
So
That's
they're
why
not
honeydew
as
honeys might have a little bit higher glycemic index.
Wow, okay. So that's usually a dark honey.
Again, I don't have concrete evidence or enough data to tell this, but there is more. Like for example, in this study, this honey on the top, which is high glycemic index. This is forest honey. This is the black, like dark, very dark amber color. And these other ones are, they are, as far as I remember from the study, this one of them is linden honey, and then the other one was heather honey, and then linden, heather, not med honey, wildflower honey, and I think those are, and acacia honey. So they have lower glycemic index in this study. But again, this is only containing 8 honey varieties. So we need to try maybe hundreds of honeys, and then we need to measure the glycemic index, and then also fructose glucose content. So it really needs an extensive amount of research to come up with a more relevant. But unfortunately, I haven't seen any papers. This is the only paper I found in 2010. So I mean, one of my students is focusing, like right now, optimizing the honey's sugar concentrations by 96-well plate reading. So she found this paper, and then we keep looking if there's any new papers. We couldn't see one yet. So hopefully in the near future, once we have this data, so this can tell us if a honey has, I mean, particular honeys has less glycemic index and can be recommended for diabetic patients. But right now we don't have concrete evidence for this. So what type of medicinal honey we know the most?
Manuka.
Manuka, right? So Manuka is one of the most expensive and one of the most studied medical grade honeys in the world. In early 1990s, Manuka was first discovered by Professor Peter Mullen from New Zealand. And Manuka is coming from the tea tree, or Leptospermum. And then in this tea tree, there's a chemical called methyl glyoxal, or there's a chemical DHA, and it is converted to methyl glyoxal, which is MGO. So this is how the Manuka honeys are classified, MGO levels. So the higher the MGO, the higher antibacterial activity in the Manuka honeys. So this is very well established in the last 30 years, and this establishment has helped Manuka, the price to go up to 100 times more expensive. In 1990s, Manuka honey was about $10 per pound in New Zealand farmers market. By early 2000s, after the discovery of Professor Peter Mullen and the medical market, promotionals and markets, the Manuka honey in Germany, it was about $2,000 per kilo. Because they don't sell Manuka in kilo or pound. How do they sell Manuka? By ounces, by grams. So they put them into an ointment tube, 15 grams of Manuka, and you pay $10. 15 grams, like how many ounces is that? Like 1.5 ounces or something?
Yeah.
So $15. Like on the other hand, you are selling our honeys $12 or $10 per pound. So this is how the Manuka's fame and Manuka's property has gone up. And now in the world, Manuka is the high in demand and low in supply. And according to it's a joke, but it's meant as a joke, but I think there's a lot of reality behind this. So in New Zealand, only 10,000 tons of Manuka is produced. But in the world, 100,000 of Manuka is sold. So,
It's a magic trick.
it's a magic trick, yeah. It's just like hocus pocus, or you read some,
This is from the tea tree, you said.
So from, yes, this tea tree, the Manuka tree,
Yeah.
Leptospermum focalium or something
And
like that.
it only, obviously it only grows in
New Zealand and south of Australia.
Yeah.
So, but unfortunately, Australia has lost the battle, international trade battle, to New Zealand, so they cannot use the word Manuka anymore. Although they have Manuka trees, they cannot sell Manuka honey.
That's insane.
I mean, New Zealand government has completely embraced and regulated the Manuka in the world. But again, high demand, low supply, high adulteration, or high, fraud is going on. So, and for this reason, Manuka price will go up. But do we have other sources? Yes, we do, and we'll see in the upcoming slides. Buckwheat honey from, from US and Canada, especially even in Texas, we have buckwheat honey.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, how many of you tasted buckwheat honey? How many of you like buckwheat honey?
I've never had it.
Less than 50%. I love buckwheat honey. And why it's the
Very
reason?
strong.
Molasses.
It's like molasses. Like it doesn't smell like honey. It doesn't look like honey. Look at the color. It doesn't taste like honey because it is medicine.
I love it.
Yes. So seriously, Manuka buckwheat honey is one of my, it's always in my top 10 list among the medical grade honeys. So I was able to analyze more than 500 honey samples from Michigan, Texas, California, Pennsylvania, New Jersey area, and I found that Manuka honey is always in top 10 in terms of antioxidant activity. Look at the color; it's almost.
Buckwheat, you said
blackish.
Manuka.
I'm sorry, buckwheat honey. Sorry, I talk so much about Manuka. The other one is like Chile's Ulmo honey. So this is a honey like Patagonia's elixir, and Ulmo honey has several studies about Ulmo honey used for medical purposes in Latin America. And again, this is one of the expensive honeys in Chile. Chestnut honey from Turkey. Yes, chestnut honey has been used as a medicinal product for hundreds of years, especially in northern Turkey, and also maybe some western Turkey as well. But chestnut honey is, have you ever tasted chestnut honey? It's worse than buckwheat. It's not worse, like you taste the honeyness, but then it's very burning, it cuts your throat, like it's okay, should I eat it again? But it's the kind of a feeling that I should try it again. It's a medicine, definitely, yes. Another one is from Malaysia, tualang honey. Look at the color.
Wow.
Like it's almost black, very dark amber. The tualang honey is again very much studied for clinical trials, and I will show you some images from wound healing studies. And Malaysia honey tualang honey is used for those studies. And now the other thing about tualang honey is it is harvested or hunted from the trees about 30 feet above the ground. So you cannot, they are not collected from the hives or like man-made hives. They are collected from the top of the trees. And they need to hunt it early in the morning and with a group of people. The other one is cedar honey from Yemen and Saudi Arabia. It is confused with cedar honey. In us, no, it's not cedar honey, it is cedar honey. And then again, this cedar tree is well known, it's with flowers to have this medicinal value. And again, as you see in the Manukas, in the cedar honey, we have like these numbers. So that also shows that this honey has been studied for medicinal activities, or it's called TA's total activity. And then cedar honey is about $90 per pound, the minimum. I found a store in New Jersey, Patterson area, and then there's another in Chicago. So they sell this in the store for at least $90 per pound, it goes up. So again, this is another medical grade honey. And oak honey, actually this is a very surprising one, especially oak honey is right here in hill country. Right, you have the oak trees and you see the bees go visit the oaks, either the leaves or the acorns. You see them, right? And you said, I think some people called you that there's a swarm on the tree.
There's the swarm of bees and they're just getting the honeydew.
Yeah, look at this. There's not so many bees on the tree, but these are not swarming, they are just collecting the nectar from them. And this is secretion from the oak tree, which is a mutual relation between the oak tree and the bees. Because as the bees come to the oak trees, they are repelling other insects. And then the oak tree is kind of protecting itself by releasing the sweet nectar for the bees. So there's always a good balance in between these organisms. Another thing is about secretion is called salva in Turkish or in Arabic as well. So salva has been known as, when the Jewish people in the desert for 40 years, and then they asked God to send them food, and then it was, raining, or what's it called?
Manna.
Yeah, monarch of heaven. So that was the salva. So that was the kind of thing that was eaten from those desert, plants. That was the sweet thing that feeding for 40 years the Jewish people until they were freed from the desert. And then when they freed from desert, what is the holiday? Do you remember? Which holiday is
Passover.
Rosh Hashanah? And what is eaten into Rosh Hashanah? Honey. See?
But the desert holiday, I thought.
Yeah, after I'm sorry, maybe I couldn't. And so once the Australian lose the battle to New Zealand for Manuka, now they focused on Jarrah honey. Again, this is the Jarrah tree or Jarrah flower. And then again, it's very pretty and the color is very dark. Again, Jarrah honey is one of the most studied medical grade honeys in Australia. And Australia is number 1 or 2 in the world for medicinal honey studies. Most of the studies for medical grade honeys are done in Australia by a large group of people. Spotted lanternfly honey. This is my other favorite honey, and this honey is a honeydew honey. So this honey is coming from the excretions of this spotted lanternfly. This beautiful fly, or this lanternfly, is considered as an invasive species by the USDA. Why?
They kill crops.
They kill the crops, like they kill the viticulture. I mean the grapes and the vines, and then they also kill the walnut trees and so forth. So USDA tells, kill them wherever you find them. But unfortunately, you cannot kill all of them. So somebody's trash can somebody else's treasure. So the honey coming from this spotted lanternfly has become one of the strongest candidates in the US to be classified as medical grade honey.
Oh, wow.
Right now we have 78 samples of spotted lanternfly honey in our lab, and we are analyzing their antibacterial, antioxidant analysis, and as well as their metabolomics, like those 3,600, remember the compounds we found? It is done by University of British Columbia. We are doing proteomic analysis, identifying which proteins inside that honey. And also sugar analysis of those honeys as well. So where do we find them? Northeastern states. Like it's first identified in Pennsylvania, 2014. And then since then it is at least 16 different states they have it. And if you go to Cornell EDU and then look for spotted lanternfly map, so it tells like a live map of them. And yes, they are causing losses in the products, but also their honey is becoming very valuable. Actually, I gave this talk in Eastern Apiculture Society in Maryland last summer, not this summer, but before. And then before my talk, there was, I think there was a lady who's giving out for free, because again, it doesn't taste like honey. It has a very bitter taste in it. And then people are, okay, I just collected this, I cannot give it to my neighbors, or my kids don't eat this, just give it for free. And she was giving for free, and I gave my talk in that morning, and then after that talk, they said, go and find that lady, we need to get this honey. But seriously, this is like, it's a very valuable honey now. So people are just holding on to it, because the studies that we are doing are making it very progressive, I mean, in terms of the medical grade honeys. Med honey, okay, people from Turkey, how do you use med honey? It's a psychedelic honey, it makes you high, like hallucinations.
Have you
It
had
does.
it? Have you had it?
Yes, I did.
And?
I'm still high. Yeah, I might have accidentally had it. I didn't have it intentionally. But my father, he was telling his own story. My father used to work in the villages, and he was using those graders, like big heavy trucks, not trucks, but heavy machines. And he and his assistant were in one of the upper villages, and the villagers, they brought them some honey, and my father realized it is med honey, and he didn't eat so much. But the assistant, he was so hungry, and then he just ate a lot of, like, couple of tablespoons. And then he said, within 5 to 10 minutes, his assistant was, like, turned upside down. He was doing like this. He said, the world is upside down, I need to do like this. So he was already gone. Like, he's already heavy. And then, because it was high in the village, there is no ambulance coming in, and there's no helicopter. I mean, you wouldn't expect it. But the villagers know how to do the things. So they got some raw milk, like directly got from the cow, and then they fed him with it, and then they made him throw up. So when he threw up, then he got back to normal. So, but otherwise he would die. Definitely, because med honey can kill the people. And they are still, like, even after all these knowledge about med honey, one of my friends was an ER doctor in northeastern Turkey, in Trabzon, and he was telling that every year the tourists that come to this area, either in domestic or international, they exposed to this med honey, intentionally or unintentionally, and then they just kind of in the ER, and then we just lavage them, wash them their stomach. So, yes, and med honey has been the first biological weapon in the history. Does anybody remember that story? Honey is sweet bioweapon. It is a bioweapon, and it was used. And there's historical evidence, like recordings for those. So, how would you use this? Yes?
Is it from a particular flower, specific flower?
Yes, rhododendron. But not a rhododendron, it's rhododendron ponticum. So this is, rhododendron ponticum is, mostly belongs to the northeastern Turkey and also in Nepal. If you have seen those guys who are hunting honey from the cliffs, they are collecting this med honey.
Wow, that's.
And that's why very expensive. I mean, that's why very hard to reach. But, so, I think.
So why do people consume it? I mean, like, do they just very small amounts?
Yeah, so what does it do is.
Microdosing?
Microdosing, great, yes. So, med honey causes bradycardia, so slowing down of the heart. So when your heart slows down, your blood pressure goes down. So the people which has high blood pressure, they consume this med honey in less than a teaspoon amount, and then to control their high blood pressure. The local people. Again, I wouldn't recommend, but that's how they use the med honey for this purpose. How many of you watched the Honeyland? Yes. What was it about? Remember?
It was like a documentary about the mad honey and how they go up in the forest.
There you go. So go and watch Honeyland. Okay? So it's a great movie. It's a documentary, and Honeyland tells you like how does this med honey or other honeys in the northeastern Turkey like the beekeepers are doing those. So, okay, we didn't talk about the sweet bioweapon. So how does it work? How would you use, if you're a commander, how would you use med honey to beat your opponents?
Feed them.
Feed them, great. How would you feed them?
Give them tea.
Gifted to.
Feed it.
Gift it to
Feed.
them.
Oh,
There you
feed,
go.
that's a good idea. Alcohol.
So, give them. But I know how does the alcohol of this one works.
Yeah.
Probably more. So, the Romans and Persians, so the Persian emperor Mithridates, he was known as the poison king. So he has microdosed several poison in his life, and he was very literate about the poisons. So, and he tried most of them in his life. When he wanted to commit suicide, when he was, become enslaved by the Romans, he could not die as he consumed the poisons because he was already resistant. So, and he asked his daughter to stab him. So, unfortunately, it's not a good end. But anyway, this Mithridates, this commander, and one of his opponents was Roman Emperor Pompey. So, and the Romans were chasing the Persians in the northeastern Turkey side today. And then they chose the route from the coast because of winter was getting heavier. And then they agreed with the local villagers to put honey pots on the road, which is filled with med honey. And then the Roman soldiers, they said, oh, the villagers love us. They're welcoming us with honey. And then they indulged into the honey, those med honey, and then within like 30 minutes or so, they could not even move their arms and legs. And then the Persians came and chopped off more than 1,000 Roman soldiers without losing any Persian soldier.
Wow.
This is how the sweetest bioweapon in the history has been used. So,
That's wild.
okay, what about some clinical applications of the honey? So we're going to talk about cancer a little bit because honey has also several anti-cancer properties, but most of these are in vitro studies, which means that they are used in the lab, but not carried in the clinics yet. Not in the US, but in some countries they do. Like from Egypt, for example, they use honey as an IV. Like they dilute the honey 10% in saline, and they just inject it into the bloodstream for the treatment of cancer, especially soft tissue cancers. But again, don't try it at home. So it's not recommended. But honey has been shown in vitro for breast cancer, colorectal cancer, oral cancer, renal cancer, and as well as cervical or endometrial cancer. So these are some of the cancer types, cell types that has been used. And you might have seen on the social media, melatonin, the bee venom, has been can kill the cancer cells in less than an hour in the high concentration. Honey would do the same thing, but maybe a little bit take longer. So, and honey has been used for this, and even the animal models, especially in the breast cancer animal models, in Indonesia, I think that was a study they were done. So they were able to kill or they shrink the tumor in the breast cancer model, in the mouse model, within just use of honey, 10% IV. So again, honey can be used for this, but other than that, honey can be used topically. So when you use honey topically on a skin cancer, so this is a mastectomy patient, so breast cancer. So her breast is removed, one of them, and the other one remains. And then as you see, there is a desiccation area. So this is the recurrent cells, okay? So these are the cancer cells that are coming on the skin. What they do is they applied honey, a hydrocolloid sheet of Manuka honey. This is Medi honey, and you can still see the tissue. If in less than 24 hours or just 24 hours later, all these recurrent cancer cells are gone. So you can do the same thing with honey, even without bee venom, right? You can have this kind of data. Again, this is just, it took another 3 more days to complete the treatment. So this is just hydrocolloid sheet of Manuka honey. And honey can also be used for alleviation of the side effects of the cancer treatments. For example, cancer patients, they go chemotherapy and radiotherapy, and one of the most common side effects is, other than losing the hair, it causes mucositis. oral inflammation. So the buccal mucosa, the epithelial cells in our mouth, they become inflamed. You remember, they are on fire. And then they cannot taste anything, they cannot, even drinking water is disturbing when you have mucositis. So what honey does, there are several clinical trials, by the way, showing that this really works. So what you do is you put the honey in your mouth, and then the honey will melt in the mouth, and then eventually it will help the epithelial cells to heal back to the normal stage. So mucositis have 5 phases, so 5 stages. So honey was able to bring them from stage 5 to stage 1 in less than a week of time. So normally there are so many other medications that are given to these patients, but just honey, holding it into mouth until it melts by itself, and then that will help the buccal mucosa inflammation to come. Another one is it's a fungating tumor, which means it's kind of popping up. Again, within I think 2 or 3 weeks of treatment, the tumor has shrinked a lot for when it's applied topically or superficially. So honey can be applied for skin cancers. Honey can be applied after surgical removal of the tissues. I gave a talk last year in Bastrop County Beekeepers, and I told them you can use your backyard honey or local honey for wound healing. And then one of their members, their dog has a cancer, and they removed a large chunk from the back feet. And then it was a non-healing wound because it was a very large wound. And they simply applied their own honey from their own hive, and then within a couple of weeks of time, it was completely healed without any scar tissue. So honey can be sometimes magical. Like really, it surprises you how it is efficient on these different type of wounds. Other than that, let's talk about honey for wound healing. But I need to charge my computer just in case, but it doesn't go.
We can slide it, yeah, we can slide the table, just slide the table.
Oh, this gives me more room. I didn't do this before. Yes, you're right. I'm not changing the projector. I'm just changing the charger. Okay. So in the wound healing, there are 4 stages. Number 1 is bleeding, and then after that, after bleeding is over, we have the inflammation phase, the fire phase, and after that we have the proliferation. Our cells will start closing the gap, and finally we have the remodeling, which is the closure of the skin and getting back to the normal stage. So most of in which stage most of the wounds are stuck? What do you think? Out of these 4 stages, in which stage the wounds stop healing or they cannot go further?
Inflamed.
Like, is it bleeding, inflammation, proliferation, or remodeling? Proliferation. Okay, anybody else?
Inflammatory.
Inflammatory, why?
My kids, sometimes they get these scabs that just won't go.
That's good, there you go. So remember, inflammation is fire. And when you have a broken fire alarm, the emergency response will not respond anymore. So in the inflammation phase, it is exposed to bacterial infection very easily. And the more you have inflammatory phase, the more infection you may end up with. Because it's a feast for the bacteria to grow in this open wound. Because it is flesh and it is rich in nutrients, it is not covered. So the bacteria will flourish in the open wounds in the inflammation stage. So most of the non-healing wounds, which doesn't heal for weeks, months, or even years, they stuck at the inflammatory phase. And most of the wound healing agents, they are trying to move from inflammation to the proliferation. Because proliferation is easier for the body to take care of it, but inflammation is not. So honey can help 3 out of these 4 stages. Honey can help with the inflammatory phase. It brings chronic inflammation back to acute inflammation, and then just regulates it to the normal cleanup of the cells. So honey doesn't only kill the bacteria there, but it also brings the white blood cells, who are the emergency response team, so they will clean up the inflammation area. Now our own cells will start proliferating, like epithelial cells and fibroblast cells, which are going to close the gap. They will start proliferating, and then they will make remodeling. So honey can help all these 3 phases. Honey doesn't stop bleeding, but it can help after the bleeding is done, after the homeostasis is established, like inflammation has started, then honey can be applied. And the best thing is remodeling, because most of the time the wound healing agents does not help you for a smooth skin after the end. So when honey is applied, it doesn't relieve any scar tissue on the back. And this has been very much seen in the C-section patients. So after the C-section, when the honey is applied into the area for a continuous time, so after the wound is completely healed, there will be much less scar tissue left on the C-section area, which the plastic surgeons don't like it. Okay, so honey has been used in various diseases, various wound types. So it is amputation wounds, like when the limb is lost, or burns, surgical wound, skin grafting. Honey can enhance the skin grafting. And then the other one is skin lesions. And more than that, another very common type of disease is ulcers, like skin ulcers, such as the leg, varicose, malignant or diabetic ulcers. Again, these are very hard to heal wounds, and honey has been shown to work with these wounds. And this paper, which was published in 21, Role of Honey in Advanced Wound Care, you can see all these different studies that honey is being used in clinic and in animal applications or veterinary applications. So if you are sensitive to some graphic contents, I have some gross wounds, so some bleeding, bloody stuff. So if you don't feel okay, just you can walk out or look at a different direction, but here's the first one coming. Okay, so this is how the honey is applied for wound healing. So number one, you can see the size of the wound. Look at this number 3. The fist of the nurse can fit into this wound. It's such a big wound. And then what does the nurse do is she cleans up the area with 10% honey in saline solution. So to clean up the wound, 10% honey saline is used by the gauze. And then as you see in number 7, the large wound is pretty large. So they basically pour the gamma sterilized honey, medical grade honey, into the patient's wound area. And then they squeeze it with some gauze to make sure that the honey can go into the tunnels under the skin. Because it is a wound which has tunnels under it. And then finally, it is dressed, set, and forget. So this is a patient actually in the first image. So this is a patient who has hemolytic bed sore. So she cannot move properly. Most likely she has dementia or something similar. And then in this patient, you can see that the patient has come to the wound clinic. So she has lots of infection and inflammation. You can see swelling. There's lots of pus and also malodor. So this wound, you can smell it 10 feet away. Because of the bacteria that is feeding on the nitrogen and sulfur-rich area, so they're gonna make a pretty bad smell. So after 1 week of application, look at this. The bacteria is gone. Slow phobia is over. The tissue is clean and fresh tissue is coming from down. So redness means freshness. And then after, on the week 3, you can see the epithelial cells start covering the wound, and this is week 4. The inflammation is almost completely gone, and then now the wound is almost cleared. So this patient was discharged 7 weeks after honey application, which was not healing.
These were also ones when the antibiotics were not working.
Oh yes, that's very true. So these people are, they agreed into, or they were approved to the honey trial after all the conventional treatments failed. So antibiotics or other wound forms or dressings, none of them has worked. Then they were approved as a last resort for the honey clinical trial. So it's important to know, as you said, otherwise this patient would be amputated to prevent sepsis. Actually, this patient was amputated several times. So this is a 22-year-old male. So this guy has diabetic neuropathy. So which means that he has a wound under his foot, and then he didn't realize it. It got infected, then they cut from the ankle. And then he got another infection on his shin, they cut from the knee. Another infection on thigh, they cut from the hip. There's no more to cut. It's over. This is the hip area. It's the top of the leg. So what will happen? Still has infection. So most likely this patient will die because of sepsis. Because the bacteria will go into the bloodstream and will cause multiple organ failure within 24 hours, and patient will be lost. Again, this patient was, after no conventional treatments has worked, after 2 years of treatment, he went through 2 years of treatment to heal this wound. Again, and then none of the skin, nothing was working for him because it's full of infection and inflammation and pus and malodor. So 1 week after treatment, the wound is clear from infection, which is a great progress because they could do it for 2 years. And then also it is the flesh wound is the fresh tissue is coming up 2 weeks after inflammation, honey, and then this is week 4. So basically, this is they did a skin graft from the other leg, so to close the wound. So because the wound is free from infection and inflammation, skin graft has worked perfectly. Normally, most of the time, skin graft will not work if there's inflammation or infection on the wound. So there is one of my friends I met in Temple. So when I gave a talk about this, and he said, I personally had an experience like this. So he was a Vietnam veteran, and then he was, there was an explosion, probably grenade explosion happened, and then some part of his body was burned. And then also lost, and some other second or third degree burns. And then they keep doing skin graft to his, I think, back of his body, and then it was rejecting. And the Vietnamese doctors recommended, the American doctors, that you should apply honey there. So once they applied the honey, skin graft has worked, and then he survived with the presence of honey by the recommendation of the Vietnamese doctors. So honey is being used in battlefield for decades. Like most of the armies, they have in their medical clinics, they have either honey dressings or honey itself to be used for by the nurses.
Do you know if they leave the honey on or?
Yeah, they leave the honey on, they cover it with the dressing. Okay. For that patient, yes. Here's another interesting and funny one, a little bit funny, sorry. It will be funny with this wound, but this is a street fighter or a cage fighter. So he got a sword slice on his arm and he didn't care. And then after that, he got infected. So when you have infection on this large in the wound, so he was almost losing his arm because it needs to be amputated for a non-healing infected wound. So 1 week after honey treatment, you can see it is clear from the pus, from the infection. Like leaf tissues came up 2 weeks after the honey treatment. And then we don't have the last picture because he ran away from the hospital. So we don't have the last one. So, yeah, he ran away from the hospital. But as you see, a wound, an arm which should be amputated because of this heavy wound, it was just survived in 2 weeks of honey application.
That's amazing.
This is a burn, again another 2 week of application. So the 3-year-old boy was burned because of a hot water or hot tea probably, and then he got so as you see, this is a pretty harsh burn wound. So after the application, like day 1, day 2, day 4, and look at day 14. Wow. No scar tissue and complete healing of the wound. And this is not an easy wound. You can see it's a 2nd degree burn. So, yep, poor baby, but with the honey, 2 weeks of application, that's good. And this is my personal anecdote. In Austin, in 2024, last year's summer, I gave a talk in one of the other conventions, and then a father approached me, and he said he has a daughter, 9-year-old, and she has neuropathic ulcer. She's not diabetic, just neuropathic. So she doesn't feel the wound under her foot. And you can see there is another wound here, which was healed partially, and this wound bothered him for 8 months. So I provided him some spotted antlerfly. Remember? Yep. It doesn't look like honey, it doesn't taste like honey, it doesn't smell like honey. And one of the beekeepers from Pennsylvania, she sent me at least 25 to 30 bottles of the spotted antlerfly honey for free. Because she said nobody's getting that honey from her. I said, okay, I'm gonna give it to you. Okay, I said, great. And I gave this honey for so many people. I don't have pictures from everything, but I believe this honey has helped so many people already. And by the way, so after 10 weeks of application, from May 30 to August 5th, so the wound was 90 to 95% healed. But because this is a wound which has a necrotic tissue inside it, it needs to be cleaned or debrided by a professional. So probably after this, they went to that stage and the wound was completely healed. So it has just happened in Austin. Okay, what about in the honey medical market? Okay, these kind of benefits are out there. What does the big pharma or pharma companies do with this? Yes.
Sorry.
How's our time? I can't go another 30 minutes.
I know. And
I'm almost done.
We have to be out of here by 8:30 at the latest. So
what is
just
time?
so you know. Huh? It's
8:18.
8:18.
12 minutes.
Okay, I'll wrap up.
No pressure.
So, wound market is a big market. By 2030s, we are expecting about almost $40 billion of market is out there. And this market is never going down because everybody's getting wounded, especially, God forbid, but if a world war happens or big war happens, we're gonna have more wounds and we need more honey. So again, we never want it, but wound market is out there big thing. So these are at least 12 different companies they already converted honey into a lucrative money-making agent. So what they did was, you cannot patent honey because it's a food product, it's considered a food product. But when you add honey into a device, like into a dressing, or into a foam, or into a hydrogel, then you can patent it. So this is how they were patented. So they have different honey products, wound care products, and then these are different companies and their products. And then all of them, they need to go some kind of sterilization method. So either gamma irradiation is the most common one, or ozonation. Heated, this is dead. I mean, you cannot use this honey anymore. But these are all FDA and CE approved. The CE is for Europe. So they are all approved by medical regulatory agents. And these was prepared last year. Probably there is more companies which is not listed on this list. So honey is out there in the medical market, and honey is found in the wound clinics, not only like civil wound clinics, but also in the Army medical centers. In the BAMC, for example, in San Antonio, when I give a talk about how honey is used for medical purposes, and they said we already have several honey dressings in our repository. So these are some of the products that honey can be a hydrogel, honey can be a hydrocolloid sheet, an alginate, a paste. Remember, the price was going up because honey was put into a tube like this, an ointment tube. It says medical honey, it is 100% leptospermum, which means 100% manuka. And it's a medical device now. So, and then these LKB, like these kind of non-adherent and adherent dressings for surgical wounds, for small wounds, flexible ones, unflexible ones, and so forth. There are so many products out there. If you look for, I mean, if you Google these companies, their products, and you will find all these different products available. So what about local medical grade honeys? Do we have honey in Texas that can be considered as medical grade? The answer is yes. So how do we identify medical grade honey? There are 3 tests: antimicrobial activity, antioxidant activity, and physicochemical characteristics. So by analyzing these properties, we can identify high bioactivity honey, and then also we can grade them as medical grade honey. You guys are standing for too long. Okay, so physicochemical, we measure the pH, pH, moisture, and color analysis. So that as you can see in Texas, we have all these different colors of honeys, from water white to dark amber, and then they're all available in Texas. So the other one is how do we measure antibacterial activity? Agar-well diffusion assay. So there are 6 different methods, but we focus on this agar-well diffusion assay, which is basically we grow this Staph aureus bacteria, the golden staph, into this agar, and then these are yellow things are the bacteria, and we open up wells and we put honey into these wells. And next morning we measure this zone of inhibition, the clear zones around these wells. Some of the honeys have high clear zones, some of them are low. And the higher the zone of inhibition, the higher antibacterial activity. And according to the CLSI, Clinical Laboratory Standard Institute, anything more than 16 millimeter is considered as medical high antibacterial agent. What about the Texas honeys? What do you think their numbers are, or how many of them should be? 83%. So out of 104 samples we analyzed, 85 of them, they have high antimicrobial activity. So they have more than 16 millimeter of the zone of inhibition. And this has been cross-tested by several different students. And then these are the names, probably you may find your name here, or if you donated honey in the past. So these are the names of the donors who has high antimicrobial activity. So some of them has like pretty large, all the way to 28 or 29. So look at these numbers, because next slide it will tell you Manuka honeys. Look at the Manuka honeys. We tried 10 Manuka honeys. There you go.
I'm on the second side. At least there's Bart. There's Bart.
Yes.
Look at that.
Give me a applause to Elisa. One minute. Great. So she has medical grade honey. Go find her. She's here already.
That's why it's expensive.
Yep, there you go. It burns. So 10 Manuka honeys, 6 of them were able to pass 16 millimeter, but 4 of them could not pass. So 40%, I would say, the Manuka honeys, again, Manuka, not every Manuka is Manuka, by the way. So this also shows that Manuka honeys not all the Manuka honeys have high antibacterial, but local beekeeper honeys are almost always high antibacterial activity. Antioxidant analysis, we use DPPH, a radical scavenger, free radical, and we measured this from purple to yellow. Purple means no activity, yellow means high activity. And we found out 49% of the honeys that we analyzed, they are high antioxidant. So the Texan honeys that we analyzed, out of like 51 out of 104, almost half of them, they have high antioxidant activity. So what does it tell us? The Texan honeys, local beekeeper honeys, are high antibacterial and high antioxidant. So again, these are the numbers. I need to update this line. It used to be 40%, not 50. That's why not all of them looks high. But again, Manuka honeys, most of them were able to pass the antioxidant activity. Just one of them could not. But overall, most of the local beekeepers, 50% of them, they has more than 40% of antioxidant activity. So by using these numbers, I came up with the formulation of bioactivity level, BAL. So every honey has a BAL value, and BAL in Turkish means honey. So every honey has a honey value or BAL value. So bioactivity level is by considering pH, moisture, color, antimicrobial activity, antioxidant activity. By using the properties, we end up with calculation of the BAL values. And then, again, anything above 40% is moderate, above 60% is high bioactivity level. So as you can see, majority of the honeys, the honey samples that we used or analyzed in this study are high biological activity level honeys in Texas. And again, some of the Manukas were also in the high level, but not all of them. So as you can see, Texas honeys can outcompete Manuka honey in terms of bioactivity level. And where do we get these honeys? Right here. Look, Austin and Hill Country area. So the highest bioactivity level honeys out of these samples were coming from Hill Country area. And because of the landscape or because of the, the soil structure and lack of agriculture, Hill Country honeys are the most potential medical grade honeys in Texas. So Texas honeys are high antimicrobial potential. Again, I need to update this one. More about 50% of them has antioxidant potential, and then some of them can outperform Manuka honeys, which can make them a high, classified as a medical grade honey for use of in the medical world. So overall, which honey should be used for medicinal purposes? I will just repeat what I said before. Local, dark, comb honey. Local honey because adulteration is much less and you know the source of the honey. Dark honey because the darker the color of honey, the higher antioxidant potential. And comb honey because nobody else has opened the honey before you opened it. Okay? So local, dark, comb honey has the most potential in terms of medicinal properties. So, if you'd like to hear more about our epitherapy applications, if you want to get some bee venom application, like bee sting application to you directly, we have this our American Epitherapy Conference in just 3 weeks. So in Las Vegas. So on November 13th, we'll start with there will be speakers from international renowned speakers will come, and as well as local medical doctors, national medical doctors will give presentations about how to apply bee venom, like royal jelly, and then propolis, bee bread, and honey for medical applications. So you can join us on this conference in Las Vegas. And again, we will have live bee sting application, and we'll have a gala, which includes all of them in the registration. So if you'd like to hear more or learn more about the studies that we have, please read this QR code. This QR code will bring you to Honeypet research posters. And then you can see the study posters or research of our students. We have more than